Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Narrative Mindset. I'm your host, Gerald. Thank you for tuning in today. If this is your first time tuning in, uh, feel free to go back and view previous episodes when you get a chance. Uh, Real quick, during the podcast, I wanted to say I'm trying to make your experience on this podcast, I'm trying to make it better. So I recently was using another microphone, what it was a forget the name, but it wasn't a. Uh, I now have a five finder. Put that word, brain freeze. But I bought a five fine microphone, and then I had it plugged into my computer, and then I ended up getting a the five fine mixer because I saw that online. I said, well, so maybe I need a mixer, and I got the XLL cord. So I got it and I plugged it up, and it is a huge difference between the sound of the other microphone and not only this microphone, but this microphone plugged into a mixer with a XLL cord. Huge difference. I think it upgrades the quality, and that's something that's something that I really wanted. I wanted it to upgrade the quality because I want my podcast to sound professional so that I'm bringing, good content to viewers on my podcast. I want you to get the best experience and go on this journey. But enough about that. Today, we're diving into a topic for me that has always been a source of both profound confusion and dawning, unsettling clarity also. It's a deep dive into the explicit, often unacknowledged relationship between American Christian right and neoliberal economics. It's a story of ideologies and values and how narratives shape not just really what we believe, but how we live. I remember a time when you were immersed in the language of conservative Christendom and words like morality and traditional values, sanctity of life, they were the bedrock at that time. And at the same time, I was absorbing the prevailing economic narratives. Uh, Free markets make us free. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Less government is always better. It felt initially like two separate tracks running in parallel. On one side, a spiritual moral compass, on the other, a logical, practical approach to prosperity. I saw people in my community, good, devout people, believing in both with equal fervor, assuming, they were inherently aligned, like two sides of a blessed coin. This assumption, this comfortable parallel, it felt really natural, you know, so much so, it felt like it felt self-evident to many of us. It was what we knew was what we breathed. It's what the landscape navigated. But as I got older, as I started to read more deeply, a question came up, and it was the the why and the what. A deep sense of dissonance settled in my gut. The Jesus I read about, the one who fed the hungry, healed the sick, and warned against The seduction of wealth seemed so utterly at odds with policies that prioritized tax cuts for the wealthy, gutted social safety nets, and championed a ruthless form of individualism. Felt like a fundamental misunderstanding, almost an emotional betrayal of what I thought Christian values truly meant. So, how could, love thy neighbor morph into an economic system that often seemed, to thrive on just the very opposite? This is where my confusion began to curdle into a raw, burning frustration. It wasn't just a differing opinion, it felt like a profound ethical contradiction. And here's where the narrative mindset it truly kicks in, because this is seemingly contradictory alliance. Because the moral absolutes of the Christian right and the moral efficiency of neoliberalism need a powerful story, a narrative glue to hold it together and make it palatable. And it got one, a compelling, almost intoxicating blend of theology and economics. It was the narrative that framed big government as the enemy of both faith and freedom, the source of dependency and moral decay. It was the prosperity gospel, subtly woven into policy, suggesting that wealth was a sign of divine favor and poverty, well, that was often framed as a personal failing or a lack of faith, certainly not a systemic issue requiring collective intervention. I've seen some of the most genuine, compassionate people I know, good people, internalize this to such an extent that they genuinely believe deregulation and lower taxes are not just good for the economy, but somehow morally righteous. A path to national blessing, a reflection of God's will. It's a narrative so powerful, so deeply ingrained, that it reshapes perceptions of justice, charity, and even sin itself. It created a clear villain, the secular socialist, overreaching state, and positioned the Christian right and neoliberal economic policy as the righteous heroes fighting for freedom and moral order. But the cost of this narrative, the real human cost, that's what truly wrenches my heart. I've watched communities struggle, individuals fall through the cracks, families face insurmountable hurdles, all while this theological, economical framework justifies their hardship. Their struggles are framed not as failures of policy or compassion, but as a consequence of their choices, or a challenge from above designed to build character. It makes me question, when did love thy neighbor become let the market decide? When did spiritual growth become synonymous with economic growth? Even at the expense of the vulnerable and forgotten, this isn't just an academic exercise for me. It's deeply personal. It's a wrestling, an internal struggle with the dissonance between the faith I respect and the political economic expression of it that I increasingly find problematic, even harmful. It's seeing the erosion of the communal responsibility in the name of individual liberty and feeling a profound sense of loss for what could be. My hope, my fervent hope, is that we can all start an intangible, untangleable thing that can untangle these threads, to critically examine the narratives we've inherited, especially when they ask us to reconcile seemingly irreconcilable truths. Because a truly Christ-like path, or simply a path of genuine human compassion, often requires us to stand against the very economic narratives that claim to represent our values. It's challenging, deeply uncomfortable, and sometimes feels like a betrayal of the very community you grew up in. but I believe it's profoundly necessary for our collective well being, for the integrity of our own minds, and for creating a society that truly reflects the values of justice, care, and interconnectedness. So, what narratives are you holding on to? What alliances have you observed that make you pause and question? I encourage you to think about it. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep shaping your narrative. This is Gerald for the Narrative Mindset.